Good afternoon, everyone. We are here this afternoon for the Hibbing Public Access TV sponsored and Chamber of Commerce forum for our two mayoral candidates for the 2022 election, Pete Hyduke and Mike Egan. And we're glad you could join us today. We're going to spend some time this afternoon finding out their views on a wide variety of things. I have written up a series of questions that hopefully won't baffle them too much, or perhaps will provide some amusement. But we are very glad they could join us and share their views on things. What we will do, each candidate has a set of rules in front of them. We have a timed debate today in terms of how much time they have for an opening statement, how much time they have to respond in a closing statement, how much they have time to answer each question. And we have a whole series of questions. We'll shift back and forth from which candidate gets which question first. And this will give the other candidate a minute or so to think before they answer, and that should be good. So we didn't do a coin toss ahead of time, but let's do this in alphabetical order by last name. Mr. Egan, why don't you give us your opening statement first?
Well, first of all, I'd just like to thank the city and the chamber for giving us the opportunity to come today and do this forum. My name is Mike Egan. I am running for mayor of Hibbing, a 30-year plus living in Hibbing. Had a few businesses in Hibbing, so I'm hoping that with that experience I can move into the government side of what I feel should be best for Hibbing.
Thank you. Pete, your opening statement?
Yes, again, I'd like to also thank the chamber and the city for the opportunity for this forum. My name is Pete Hyduke. I've been a lifelong resident of the city of Hibbing and a 35-year employee of the city of Hibbing. My wife and Cindy and I have raised 4 kids in this community, and we have 4 great kids and 7 great grandchildren. The reason that I wanted to be involved in the mayor is I think I can bring my 35 years of experience that I have with the city in managerial, operational, budgeting, and grant writing experience to help the city move forward. I had the opportunity to work in primarily 4 jobs at the city of Hibbing: park maintenance supervisor, public works superintendent, director of city services, and then ended my career as interim city administrator. So I just feel that I have a good understanding of the city, not just from a political standpoint, but from an operational standpoint also, and I feel that that can be detrimental, positive moving forward in working with the city.
Thank you, Pete. Pete, since Mike got the opening statement, we'll give you the first crack at the first question. What is something positive you would like to say about your opponent?
Well, I've known Mike for many years. We've worked on joint projects, baseball, the Miracle Field. He's a businessman. My wife and I eat there quite often at his business. So Mike's invested in this community, and I think it's shown in what he has done and what he's had to go through with the fighters that he's had, and he battled through that and still kept his business viable.
Thank you. Mike, same question. What is something positive you can say about Pete?
Well, one of the things that, as Pete mentioned, is we've been working together on a few projects, the Miracle League, and some of the things that we've done over the years. I've had 30 years experience with the Little League, and Pete's basically been there every year I've been there. So we've been able to work together to do that. Just the overall atmosphere as far as the stability of the parks and under his direction and under his leadership over the years has proven to have been beneficial. And I can say that because I've been a part of it for 30 years with Little League, and now with the Miracle League the last 6-7 years now for the Miracle League. So
Thank you both. And the reason I should explain why we asked this question, we've had so much negative, uncivil behavior in politics lately. It's nice that we asked this question several years ago, and we had one candidate who couldn't think of a nice thing to say about his opponent. So I thought I have to ask this question of our 2 mayoral candidates. Mike, the next one for you first. What are your top 3 or 4 priorities you'd like to advocate if you were elected as mayor?
Well, the number 1 priority is I'd like to see the establishment of a committee to put together the development for a city service building. I think we need to combine fire hall, police hall, and city hall. And I think that under the direction of the city council and the availability of trying to get grants and federal money that are out there right now to do that, that would be the number one priority on my list to get completed. Secondly, if, again, appointed mayor of Hibbing, I'm going to ask the council to, a resolution to limit the term of two terms to both the mayor and city council. I think that if you can get started and get 4 years in, you get another 4 years. If you can't do it in that amount of time, you need to step back and give the opportunity to somebody else to come forward. Secondly is to, and everybody hates the word tax, but we need to take a look at what we can do to curtail the amount of tax that we're charging some of the citizens of Hibbing.
Okay, thank you. Pete, the same question, your top three or four priorities, if you were elected as mayor?
Yes, prior to retiring, about 1.5 years ago, 2 years ago, the city did make a priority of the new public safety, police and fire building, and did ask for state bonding on that. And of course, it's being held back right now until they finish their bonding sessions, but I gotta agree with that. I understand and know the issues that are with the police department and lack of space. We're spending about $80,000 a year renting space from the county with no room to expand. The fire department has a building that's structurally being flawed. It's not built for modern fire equipment, and neither one has gender locker rooms that are appropriate for today's society. Secondly, your general services, you have to take care of your general services, which is your infrastructure and your buildings. And your storm sanitation, road sidewalks, alleys, we have to still fund those and make sure that we can get matching grants. There's many types of dollars that become available. Some are state, some are federal, that can be used to offset those prices. Last is our quality of life. I think there's two things that people look for when they move to a community. One is the schools. Number two is your quality of life. Then public safety and infrastructure follows third and fourth. So I think it's important that we include all three.
Okay, thank you. Pete, you first for the next question. Changing times often require reshifting budget priorities. What new budgetary needs do you see arising, and where might current funds be reappropriated, shifted in other words?
Okay, can you repeat the first part of the question?
Sure. Changing times often require reshifting budget priorities. What new budgetary needs do you see arising, and where might current funds be reappropriated?
Well, I think that's always an evolving situation. I mean, take the pandemic. No one was prepared for that. But as a result of that, we had additional funding that came through the ARP money, and which American Rescue, so we had to adjust for that. Manpower changes, insurance changes, all those amenities that your employees get is always in flux. So I think it's important that you have some flexibility, you have some built-in funding that's just for shortage, and I think the city has the ability to do that and can deal with most situations that might arise. As long as you're proactive and not reactive, I think you can have success no matter what's thrown at you.
Okay, thank you. Mike, same question. Changing times often require reshifting budget priorities. What new budgetary needs do you see arising, and where might current funds be reappropriated?
Well, to be honest with you, I don't think I am in an opportunity or have in a position to answer that correctly, because I have not been associated with the budget as much as Mr. Hajduk has for the last 35 years. So I think he has a little better handle on it. But I look at it as on the business side of it. Once you get into a business, you take a look at what the priorities are as far as the things that the city needs, the employees, the tax, the insurances, everything else. And once if selected mayor, those are some of the priorities that I'd have to take a look at and resolve from there.
Well, thank you, Mike. Mike, this question for you next time, next turn. Changing times may require increased sharing arrangements with entities outside the city of Hibbing. What local communities, public schools, community groups, and post-secondary schools should Hibbing be sharing with, and what services should we share?
Well, I think we should look at sharing whatever we can with both, or either Chisholm, Nashwauk, Keewatin, Cherry, whatever outside city that we can work with, that we can share different things that can be done here for Hibbing, but I think we need to take a look at what's best for Hibbing. With the school, I'm on the school board, so I know that we have some collaboration with Chisholm as far as the athletic teams and what we can do and who can participate with that. The airport with the Chisholm, we have that with them, so that is a combined entity right there. But it's just a matter of working with the other communities around us. But on the same hand, we need to take a look what is best for the community of Hibbing. And I think that if we prioritize us as something that what is best for Hibbing, then that's the route that we should take.
Okay. Pete, the same question. Changing times may require increased sharing arrangements with entities outside the city of Hibbing. What local communities, public schools, community groups, and post-secondary schools should Hibbing be sharing with, and what services should we share?
Well, personally, I don't think there's anything that should be off the table. And I think Hibbing has really set an example with their public works facility. That's a joint facility where the county supports 50%, the city 38%, and the state 12%. I mean, that was probably a perfect arrangement at the time. I look at what our fire department does. When we have fires, you'll see Chisholm here, you'll see Keewatin here, and vice versa. If there's a fire in other areas, I know the forest fires, we had staffing up in the forest fires in the Ely area last year. So I think the city has done a good job of displaying and providing those services and also receiving those services. I look at our police department. You have, the county has rescue dogs. We have drug enforcement dogs. We have electronic dogs that are shared now throughout the region without everybody having to have their own. So I think we've done that well. I actually am open to reviewing anything that can be shared, but it has to be looked at. And like Mike, when it comes to services, manpower, and procedures, you still can't shortchange Hibbing as you look at that. It's important that we address our residents first.
Okay, thank you. Pete, this question to you first. What is the best way to attract people to serve on city boards and commissions? And this is one we ask every 2 years, and it still is out there as an issue. So I'm just curious for your response, you and Mike.
Well, it is a big issue, and I look at the boards that aren't filled right now. Our library board, our park and rec board, plus numerous boards that might be in name but actually aren't aggressive in meetings. So I think that's a big problem, but I think you have to promote it more. A board is a way for employees to have a say in our city government. It's one of the things that I've highlighted that I think needs to be improved on is recruitment for those boards and understanding that those boards and commissions are going to have opinions, and that's what they're brought in for the city to digest and decide what direction they want to go. So it's more, I think, a publication thing and recruitment. And it definitely is a situation that is lacking in the city of Hibbing.
Okay. Thanks, Mike. Same question. What is the best way to attract people to serve on city boards and commissions?
Just be honest. Let them know that their words and their ideas are going to be heard. Give them an opportunity. The problem that I see with some of the incidents in Hibbing is that people say, well, this is wrong or that's wrong. Well, here you got an opportunity to join a board and express your feelings and know that the council or whoever is going to listen to what you have to say. You're not just there as somebody that's just going to, give your 2 cents worth and then it's over and with. We want an individual that wants to step up and give their opinion and be known that their opinion is going to be heard.
Okay, thank you. Mike, this question first for you. Increased demand for services and declining state aid mean doing more with less. What city services might be reduced or eliminated, and what municipal programs are underfunded and should be better supported? And where might funds be found to meet these needs?
Again, this is another question that I don't have 35 years of experience within the city to answer correctly without getting more involved in the numbers. And I really don't know what the numbers are until I get an opportunity to take a look at them. But as far as city services are concerned, I think that as Peter mentioned in his comments earlier, that's one thing that we have to maintain. And unfortunately, we have a aging population. We have to maintain the services that are best for them. But yet on the same token, we can't be raising taxes and doing everything to offset the cost of what has to be done.
And state aid is not increasing, it's declining.
Correct.
Pete, the same question for you. Increased demand for services and declining state aid mean doing more with less? What city services might be reduced or eliminated? And what municipal programs are underfunded and should be better supported? And where might these funds be found to meet these needs?
I think staying modernized by modernizing your buildings, equipment, properly training your employees makes you more efficient. And I think you can take a look at that answer from an efficiency point of view on certain aspects. Then it's a case where I think that's where you reach out to the public and you see what types of, involving the public more on what services they actually could do without less and what they would want more of. I think employees and residents engaging their community, helping the community, a simple thing like cleaning a catch basin in front of your house instead of letting it flood and calling the public works to come do it. It takes 2 minutes to take care of a catch basin. Those are types of things where you have to engage in your own community. And is budgeting, it's always in flux. And you're right, LGA has been dropping, and we are a high LGA community. And as your tax base drops, the weight and the importance of the LGA is very important. So, but I think that's a question that you throw out to your public and you let them give you the feedback on where they feel they would mind cutting and still would be happy with your services.
Yeah, thank you. This question first for Pete. What is the current status of the Memorial Building expansion project, and what can the mayor's office do to advance this effort?
Well, right now, we're just in a concept stage. And everybody knows that I've been a proponent, but that's because I've listened to the majority of the people that have asked for what can we do, how can we improve our health, wellness, and recreation. But this is a project that is in the very early stages. And to go after funding, you have to have a concept. You have to have something to put out there in the public so that you can get excited about it. That's about where it is right now. The city is removing some homes, and the city has invested in concepts and some studies. We've also had the independent studies done by the Blandon Leadership Group, and we basically have had our comprehensive plan done by the city about 3 years ago, which reflects the needs of this community. That project is just addressing what was brought up in those studies. But it's a ways off because you still have to look at all the other things like public safety and your partnerships and your infrastructure to move forward. The biggest way to move forward with that project is through partnerships. You will not do it on the city standing alone. You have to incorporate some other user groups and some partnerships to offset the costs of moving forward, whether it's at the Memorial Building or another site.
I had to ask this question. I'll tell this to both of you. Somebody asked me this morning when I was working on questions, they said, will we have an expansion next year? And I said, I'll find out. Mike, same question, current status of the Memorial Building expansion project, and what could the mayor's office do to advance this effort?
Well, I think this is one department or one area that Mr. Hyduk and I differ on. I do not believe that we need to spend the money to advance the development of the Memorial Building. Yes, we need a new ice rink, but yes, the ice plant, from my understanding, at the Memorial Building is sufficient enough to support a separate sheet of ice. So why not do that, which was, I think, one of the ideas that came up a few years ago. And I just, as we said in our first opening remarks, the service building that the city needs, I think, is number one priority. If we're gonna go after grants, and that's another thing, the city of Hibbing needs to go after what they deserve. Virginia gets theirs, Grand Rapids gets theirs, and I just think that it's time that the city needs to step up and start going after the money that's available for that and use it on projects that I feel, or that the community feels, that have to be done.
Okay, thank you. Mike, this question to you first. Mining is one of Hibbing's economic mainstays. What do you see as the mayor's role in supporting a continued thriving mining economy in the area?
Well, I think the biggest thing that the city could do is, I think there's a lack of communication between the mining companies and the city of Hibbing as far as what their development is versus what the rumors are on the street and what's being heard. You hear rumors of maybe 2 years left at HibTac. You know, I know they're going to have the new groundbreaking for the building over in Keewatin. But you know, you need to develop it, but on the other hand, too, the city needs to look at diversifying itself into other industries and giving the opportunity for people in this community to have a job besides hopefully not finding one at the mines. We have a Detroit Diesel in town is going to have a major expansion here. We have the L&M Radiator is one of the larger developers in the country. So why not support those, just those two entities, and then also give the opportunity for other companies and other industrial companies to come into Hibbing and build here and offer jobs to the people of Hibbing, so that we can stop hearing about there's nothing for the young couples to do, to have here, to work and to stay, and give them an opportunity to, you know, to purchase a home and stay in this community.
Okay, thank you. Pete, same question. Mining is one of Hibbing's economic mainstays. What do you see as the mayor's role in supporting a continued thriving mining economy in the area?
I agree with what Mike said as far as communication needs to be better between the mining companies and the city of Hibbing, just so that we stay up to breast on what could or could not happen. Actually, both mining companies, National Steel or U.S. Steel, is on Hibbing property. It's not on Itasca or Keewatin, as well as HibTac. But I think it's important that we know that that is a big driver in this area. Not so much even just the mining, but to support businesses for that mining. You know, Mike mentioned L&M Radiator, and yes, they're a big supporter, but they're worldwide, which is nice, as is Detroit Diesel now. Those are two very good businesses that are expanding. And I think it's important to look into the industrial side and see what else we can expand into our industrial sites so that we have more opportunities. Mining will always be a big part of our industry up here. There's no way to get away from that. And I think if we can create and help them be better corporate partners with us, I think it'd be a win-win for the city. But it's we never know what's going to happen in the mining industry because it's volatile.
Thank you. Pete, this question to you first, and it's been pointed out a number of times in the last few years. Shortage of childcare facilities and workforce shortages are two challenges facing the city. What could the mayor's office do to address these needs?
Okay, well, I guess one of the things that I believe in is in your health and wellness. Part of that is having the opportunity to provide daycare. We have some daycare in this community, and I look at what the school just did to address. They took a step forward into the 21st century with the Early Childhood Center. I had an opportunity about 3 weeks ago to go down to Hermantown and see their YMCA and what they offer for daycare and different things and programs, and I came away amazed at how they did their project. So I think we need to look outside the box. You know, maybe we again, I'm a big proponent of partnerships, and I think as we got back to the earlier question of the Memorial Building, not everything can be at the Memorial Building. There are other entities and other facilities that could be created in this community to offset the shortages that we have. I think the school did a great job of moving forward and really putting their nose to the grindstone, and I think the city needs to do the same thing from a residential point of view and for giving an attraction for people to move to this community.
Mike, same question. Shortage of childcare facilities and workforce shortages are two challenges facing the city. What could the mayor's office do to address these needs?
Well, you know, I mentioned earlier there's collaboration between the different communities. Well, there needs to be collaboration between the city and the schools. And I think as Pete mentioned, the school board took a step towards that with the development of the Early Childhood Center. And this is just the start of what I think can be done within the community. There's the new Boys and Girls Club that's going to be up and running here soon. And I think there's an opportunity with the closing of the YMCA in Virginia for Hibbing to stretch out to that entity and see if there's a possibility that the city could work with them in establishing also, as we do with the school, a early child or daycare center for the citizens of Hibbing.
Okay, thank you. Mike, this question to you first. What could the mayor's office do to access support to attract diverse economic development and revitalize Hibbing's downtown?
Wow.
I didn't promise easy questions.
You know, that is another subject that's close and dear to my heart because I look at the downtown area. I've been in business in the downtown Hibbing area for close to the 30-some years that I've been up here. I've had several different businesses downtown, and it's really sad to see the buildings as far as how bad some of them have become. Now, I think one step that the city should look at if there's an opportunity, and I think at one time we had some leftover COVID money, where that is, I don't know where it is at right now, but that could have been used to establish grants for the individual business owners in the community to upgrade their buildings and make them more feasible, both on the facade and in establishing new gas or related heating and cooling units so that and insulating the buildings to make them better and efficient for the downtown area. But we need to take a look. I think a revised downtown area would be really great for the community of Hibbing. It was at one time, and I think it can be done again.
Pete, same question. What could the mayor's office do to access support to attract diverse economic development and revitalize Hibbing's downtown?
Well, I think the first thing that the city just did this year is they hired an economic developer. And we've had hit and miss. We've had Mr. Turville did a nice job filling in, but for on and off, we have not had consistent economic development. And a city of this size needs to have that. We're a city where traffic flow is important. Our Beltline does route a lot of traffic around our city. So I think there has to be a niche, and I look at what Mike has done, what Boomtown has done. I mean, they will draw in people because of the niche of the type of establishment that they've done. There's a lot of niche businesses that have gone downtown, and I think that's great. We'll never have the 1960s and 70s. It's a different time. Travel is not an issue right now. People will go out of town, but you have to give people a reason to come in. And I think, again, it comes back to partnershiping. Whether it's through grants, whether it's working with the IRRB, whether it's working with other entities, it's finding resources that we can partner with businesses to bring some additional businesses downtown. But I think it'll be more niche businesses than what we had in the past, your Wards, your Pennies, those types of businesses.
Okay, thank you. Pete, this question to you first. If you received a $1 million grant to use for the city any way you wanted, what would you do with it and why?
Well, that's a good question because there's so many needs in the city, and I know a lot of our buildings need repairs, and I guess with that type of funding, I guess I would apply it towards upgrading our buildings. I look at the shape that City Hall's got into. We've done some repairs, but there's a lot more repairs that have to be done. We're fortunate. I look at the fire hall. I think we could probably use that money as a match and duplicate or triple that money by using that as a match to go after other funding that we can piggyback on. But for me, it would go towards buildings.
Okay. Mike, same question. If you got a $1 million grant to use for the city for any way you wanted, what would you do with it and why?
Well, unfortunately, $1 million doesn't go that far these days. Not as like it used to. But I think if you had $1 million, as Pete mentioned, I think, again, it goes back to what we first talked about at the beginning of this debate, is that we need to take a look at what's best for the city of Hibbing. And right now, in my mind, we need a service center that's both fire, police, and city hall. And if you can use that $1 million to put towards a grant, whether it's a federal, state, or IRRB, to help with the development of that building, I think that is something that should be looked at.
Okay, thank you. This question, Mike, first, and you've probably already touched on this. Do you think our Main Street downtown is healthy and successful? If not, what might be done to change that?
Could our downtown be more successful? Of course it could. I think that there's some things that should be done. I, for one, would love to see a hotel built in downtown. I think with the have, the ability to put, pretty much like real life, you'd have an underground parking, the main level would be retail or restaurant, and then floors above that. That would draw more people, not only from Hibbing, but from other communities to come downtown. You'd be able to stay in the downtown area, look around the downtown area, but again, we have to make it, pleasant for the people to come and be here. We have to have entities or different businesses that they'll want to visit and spend their money at. So that is one thing I'd like to see.
Pete, same question. Do you think our Main Street downtown is healthy and successful? And if not, what might be done to change that?
Well, it's definitely changed over the years, and we hit on this on the previous question a little bit, but I think the biggest thing is we have to engage our chamber. And traditionally, that hasn't been something that has happened to the extent that maybe it should. Those are the business owners. I think we need to hear and listen to them, what their needs and what they're looking for in support. There's success in numbers. It's the reason car ownerships are all by each other, because you bring in one, they all benefit. I think we need to clean up our downtown as far as the buildings that are, need to be either demolished or upgraded. Stay with the type of programs that the IRRB, your storefront programs and things to basically spruce the downtown up. And then look for matching funding, whether it be state, federal, or IRRB or whatever it might be, to entice and to improve our downtown climate and the opportunities of variety of what we offer to the residents. The more you offer in variety, the more you will attract people to our downtown.
Thank you. Pete, this question to you first. I have a number of friends from around the country who come up to visit, and they usually come up and they go through Grand Rapids first, and then they come to Hibbing. And one of the questions they always ask is, how come there are so many tourist things in Rapids and not in Hibbing? Do you get a lot of tourists? What would you do to encourage tourists to come here? Because this brings in a lot of money to communities.
Absolutely. This is something that I've discussed many times. I think we have to bundle what we offer. And I have talked with the chamber, I've talked with our history museum curator, and we've looked at, rather than running everything as an individual, we need to work jointly in attracting, whether it's a Dillon, our high school, our Mindview, the history museum, the bus museum. I think we have to bundle and work together so that single dollar is advertising all the entities rather than trying to work as individual. As far as Grand Rapids, Grand Rapids is the county seat, like Duluth is for St. Louis County. So they draw all of Itasca County in their lake. We're two different types of communities. But I think we can take the same approach as far as marketing as a group, not individually. And that was something that's been talked about for a couple of years. I think it just has to come to fruition.
Okay, thank you. Mike, same question. What would you do to attract tourism to Hibbing?
Well, I think first of all, we have to decide whether or not Hibbing is a recreation destination, or are we going to look to be something else? Do we have the lakes? Do we have the highways like Virginia and Grand Rapids? No, so as Pete mentioned, we need to come up with a campaign that we can support and amplify what we do have to offer here. Pete and I have also been involved in looking at a campground out at Cary Lake. It's been 12 years, and we're still diddling around with that, trying to figure out how we're going to get that built. So instead of putting the cart in front of the horse, we need to put the money in front of what the idea, get the idea, and get the thing done so that we have it. And that would just be another draw. That would help draw some of the new trend now with the bikers that, ride the bikes and they can go to the trail over in Chisholm, come back, stay in Cary Lake. But those are just some of the things that need to be done. And we need to follow through on what we want to do. Instead of just dreaming about it, we need to step forward and produce it and get it done.
Okay, thank you. Mike, this question to you first. You mentioned this earlier, I believe, the idea of 2 terms on the council or mayoral. Where do you see Hibbing in 5 years? Let's say you got elected as mayor, and 5 years from now, where do you want the city to be?
Well, realistically, I would just love to see that our community is vibrant. I would love to see the opportunity for the youth in this community And those that have graduated, moved and gone through the college, will be able to come back and have an opportunity to have a job here. I think if you look at what we do have to offer, we have a great school district. We have a good and healthy health district with the hospitals and the clinics. So there is a lot for this community to offer. We just need to amplify those, fine tune some of the things that haven't been done, and give it an opportunity for people to come here that want to be here, not want to leave, but want to stay here and come here. That's what I'd like to see for Hibbing.
Okay, thank you. Pete, same question. Where would you like to see Hibbing in 5 years if you got elected as mayor?
Well, again, I always come back to one phrase, partnerships. And I think we have to partnership with the strength of this community. Mike had mentioned that. Our education system in this, both at the high school level and the college level, is very good. A great place to partnership with. Our medical facilities are very good. We have some industrial, very good industrial. I think we can partnership not only to create jobs, but to create opportunities and places for people to move back so that they have the opportunity to have the best of both recreating, educating, and all the other amenities that go with a solid city. I do think I'd like to see the downtown again cleaned up. Some of the buildings that are more of a eyesore, I think, should be raised, and there's things that can be done from pocket parks to additional parking, and to highlight the things that we are successful with, the business that are successful downtown. So it's a combination of things. I don't think there's any one answer, but there's no doubt both of us would like to see this city move forward with more opportunities to attract more people back to this community.
Okay, thank you. Pete, and this is happening all across Minnesota, just as in Hibbing, but we are a state that's changing tremendously in terms of diversity of population. What challenges do you see for the city of Hibbing in dealing with diversity and increased diversity?
Well, I think increased diversity just comes with time. I mean, it is happening, as you just mentioned. And the city just had, both at the HRA and the city had just this past year had some employees that were on internships that were working with diversity within the city. And I think it's important that we address that. I know the city, I just noticed, or the school district, the Indian Affairs, that was just notified or was advertised in the paper. I think you try and do whatever you can within the diversity within our schools and also within our city structure. Can we always get better? Absolutely.
There's always room for improvement. Mike, same question. Hibbing's facing a number of challenges dealing with diversity. What do you see those challenges as?
Well, if you look back in the history of this community, diversity is nothing new. I mean, you started out as a mining community and a forest community, and you had individuals from all over the world coming here that were able to work together to build a community and build a city. And I think that's some of the things that this city could build on continually right now. As you mentioned earlier, there's a lot of, how do you put it, media mumble jumble, this and that out there. And, we're all human, and we all learn to get along and live with one another. And I think that the citizens of this community are open to diversity and making things available for those that don't have the opportunity they might have somewhere else.
Okay, thank you. Mike, this question to you first, and I know this isn't a PUC, but this question comes up all the time. All of Minnesota is undergoing this. There's an increased demand for energy, increased demand put on utilities. What do you see happening here in Hibbing in the next, let's say, 5 years with utilities?
Well, again, this is something that I'm not real familiar with, but I know that, the city and the PUC have to work together. And, as long as we can maintain a financially stable public utilities and still give the energy that the people in the community need. I know there's some question versus the steam versus the gas versus the sewers, the water, those are all infrastructure things that need to be talked about and worked together with, but it has to be a collaboration between the public utilities in the city of Hibbing in order to find the financing to maintain what we have there right now, so.
Same question, Pete?
Yes, the PUC has been doing, I know they've been replacing a lot of their steam condensate lines in the alleys. I think they're trying to be progressive. I know I've spoke with their general manager, and I know he's still a believer in steam. And I think it is a good quality energy source. As far as we're tied in with the MPNL, so there is some issues there regarding what the MPNL charges us. As we move forward into this 21st century, and if electric cars become a thing of the now in this area, we are going to have to address, as a PUC, working with them, the infrastructure within this community. Going all electric will not be an easy thing in this community, as it will be in any community because of the grid. But I think we have to work hand in hand, because this city and the PUC are tied pretty close together, even with our finances. So it's important that we're on the same page. When we're doing repairs, we don't want to repair a street and then the next year we're repairing a water line. There has to be cooperation and meeting of the minds.
It's a good idea, save a lot of money too. Pete, let me ask you this question first. With the pandemic and all sorts of other changes that are going on, tremendous influence on people working from home or people working remotely. What can we do to encourage better broadband service on the Iron Range?
Well, I think there are some outside entities that are pushing for that. And I think the state has started to address that, and you see some of our legislators. I think what we have to do is just support that and look for any funding that we might be able to do. But again, I think that's a partnership thing that we can do with other entities, the school district, so that it, not just our residents, but it also affects our students. And they are our future residents and our future business owners. So I would try and make it more broad than just our residents, to make sure that it involves every aspect of life within this community.
Okay, thanks. Mike, same question. What would you do to encourage and address the need for broadband or wider broadband service in the area?
Well, I think you're seeing the broadband service right now. You know, they're laying new cable and new availability for people to get, you know, broadband and into their community. And as Pete mentioned earlier, you know, one of the biggest ones that really need it is the students and the young people in this community. You know, I'm sure there's some that, you know, you go home with their homework and they can't do their homework because they don't have access to, you know, to the system. So, you know, again, you work with different companies. You open it up so that different companies have an opportunity to come in here and give them that opportunity to put that service in. You can't rely on just one company to supply what you need for this community to have for broadband.
I'm looking at time here and we have about, okay. Let me give you one final question, and then we've got time for your closing statements and any other questions you may have for us. A lot of what we want to do here in Hibbing will rely upon economic development and the taxes generated by economic development. What do you think, Mike, should be the city's policy about attracting economic development? How much do we spend to make money?
Well, I think this goes back to what I mentioned earlier. We need to decide what we're going to be. I mean, what is this community going to be? Are we a mining community? Are we a recreation destination? Are we an industrial state? You know, are we gonna try to go out and attract those businesses that are gonna give us a good tax base so that we can work off? They're gonna generate new jobs for people that want to come out of school and have a job, a good paying job. And I think that's something that has to be taken a real good, long, close look at and decide what we want to do. And in my mind, I would love to be able to see that in 5 years that we have half a dozen new entities, you know, building and processing and hiring people in Hibbing and keeping them here. We have the space to do it. We have, as Pete mentioned earlier, we have, you know, the highway access, and we have, the city does have land available to help develop that. and go out and get the money that needs to be done to help these companies come here. And make it so they want to come here. Again, we have a great education system, so if you want to move here, the education's good, the health is good, the medical side is good, our city services are top-notch as far as the range is concerned from what I've seen. So there's a lot of pluses that we can use to attract a lot of people back to Hibbing or keep them here.
Okay. Pete, same question?
I think one of the advantages we have here, again, is our community college, HCC, because that and our airport are two different things that are, we have a tremendous airport here. Our community college, which already basically partners with other businesses here in structuring a curriculum to support the businesses that move in. I think we have to really push that partnership as we seek other businesses to come here. Training, everybody knows any business, training of an individual or your staff is a very, very costly venture. And if we can partnership with our community colleges and customize the training like they have for the mill writing programs and different things for the mines, I think we could do that for many different businesses that might want to come in here. We have a great community, and I think we have a great location. We sit in the middle of the Iron Range with 70,000 people around us within 25 minutes. So I think we have to market that to our advantage and use the resources within this community to better us moving forward.
Thank you.
If I could just give 30 seconds real quick, I'd like to give a shout out to our Career Academy. I think that's one thing that I forgot to bring up. Pete brought up about the college. Here's an opportunity for young students in the high school are given an opportunity to go train at our facilities and get that necessary background and training that they need. So I just wanted to throw that out. I forgot to mention that earlier, so.
We'll give you, as a school board member, that extra 2 minutes.
Oh, okay, thank you.
Pete, you get to close since Mike had the opening.
Well, I guess what I would say is my 35 years here, I've been passionate about this community. I've been active not only with the city, but I've also been coaching 3 different sports, not at the same time, but I've been involved with the youth with this community and the high school for 45 years. So I have engaged and given back to this community. I have worked with some great city staff, some great school staff, some great business people over the years to move this city forward. I think it's important, what I would want to see is great transparency in our city government. I'm not a supporter of the COW meetings, and if they are, then they should be publicized, and the people need to know what's going on at all times. I think respect is very important, that we need to respect our community, we need to respect coworkers, and we need to respect every component of the city and the city workforce. Also listening, I think is important that as a city, and something I've done for 35 years is listen. Everything I've brought forward to the city over my career, and it's about 160 things, I have listened to the community, to individuals, to residents before I brought it forward. So I think it's very important that we do that. Reestablishing our community boards and commissions, I think, is important. So it's a great city. I'm passionate about where we need to go, and I think I have the energy, and I certainly, being retired, have the time to look forward to having the opportunity to help move this city forward. But it will take everybody. It can't be one person. It'll take a commitment and engagement by every resident in this community.
Thank you, Pete. Mike, your closing statement?
Well, first of all, I'd just like to take again to thank and for giving us this opportunity to speak today. To my opponent, Mr. Hyduk, for being here, the city and also the chamber for putting this together, in your time for coming in. I look at it as an individual, as people who know me and know how I am. I always tell the story about when I first moved here. I came up as a traveling pipe fitter plumber and worked out of the local union. And the first thing I was told when I got to the job site was, "You'll never be a ranger. You'll never be treated like a ranger. So just do your job, and you will leave you alone." Well, 34 years later, I feel like a ranger because I've been in this community and I love this community. I've had 4 children go through the education system here. Unfortunately, I've lost one daughter, but the boys have all stayed here. I've got grandchildren here. I've tried to be involved on the different communities, from being past president of the Chamber of Commerce, past president of the HEDA board. I am on the school board now, Miracle League, that's Pete. We're community driven, I think, is what both of us have in common. And I look at it from a business standpoint. I may not be as polished as my opponent is as far as the city and how things go. But I can tell you right now that given the opportunity to put the city of Hibbing in the right direction, as I have with my businesses, I'll give it 110%, and I will not stop until I see what has to be done and I feel could be accomplished.
Thank you, Mike. And I would like to add my thanks to what you said to our Ron Workla and HPAT. Ron has been very faithful at recording all of these and giving the voters of Hibbing a chance to meet their candidates and talk to them through me. And thank you both for coming this afternoon. And I guess I can wish both of you good luck in the election on Tuesday, November 8th. Thank you.
you.